In the Arctic, geologists Julia and Oscar are conducting experiments using underwater detonations. Suddenly, they receive a call warning them about an incoming storm and are forced to leave quickly. Nearby, a Russian sub detects intense underwater sounds from an unknown source. To their surprise, the seabed seems to be shifting upward. Julia's scanning devices start acting erratically, and the ice around her camp begins to fracture. She wants to collect her research, but Oscar pulls her away just in time. Meanwhile, the crew of the submarine realizes the sounds are coming from a living source. They begin evasive maneuvers, but are struck by something in the water. On the surface, Julia and Oscar try to escape across the cracking ice. The fractures appear ahead of them as well, and their snowmobile is thrown by the shifting terrain. They tumble off it just before it explodes and sinks. Their entire camp soon follows, and the remaining team members vanish beneath the surface. The sub continues to take heavy damage as its crew struggles to stay in control. After some effort, they manage to open fire. The flash of light reveals enormous tentacles in the water. One crew member is thrown through a screen and loses consciousness. Another officer releases the emergency buoy just before the sub is taken under. At the Russian naval base, news of the sub's disappearance reaches the top brass. Since the vessel was carrying highly sensitive equipment, a recovery team is dispatched. The mission is led by Victor, the captain's brother. Concerned for his safety, Victor's mother gives him his late father's watch as a keepsake. That night, Victor arrives at the docks and learns that Admiral Olshansky, his father's friend, will be joining the operation. The first mate expresses doubts about Olshansky's readiness for the task. When Victor boards the new submarine, many of the crew grumble about being called back from leave. Meanwhile, Julia and Oscar are wandering in a blizzard, trying to find a signal. Julia is distracted by her device and nearly falls into a crevasse, but Oscar grabs her in time. Her phone finally picks up a signal from an oil platform, and she makes a call. However, the storm causes too much interference and the call isn't understood. The signal soon drops. Oscar fires a flare before passing out from exhaustion. By morning, the sub reaches the area of the earlier incident. After careful planning, they dive. Olshansky takes Victor and some officers to a private room where a troubling report leaves them visibly concerned. Word starts spreading among the crew about the previous sub. Back on the surface, Julia and Oscar find the buoy stuck in the ice. Realizing someone may come looking for it, they decide to wait. When the sub picks up the buoy's signal, they head in its direction. Suddenly, a group of whales surrounds them. The crew tries to maneuver without harming them. One whale accidentally bumps a part of the sub, prompting Olshansky to order the sonar activated. Despite Victor's warning, it might disturb the sea life. The whales swim away briefly, then return. The crew watches as the animals finally leave for good. They realize the low-frequency hum is returning and the seabed is shifting again. A giant tentacle strikes and kills a whale. The radar picks up something massive approaching. Olshansky wants to open fire, but Victor suggests they hide instead. The sub squeezes into an ice wall crevice, shuddering as it makes contact with the sides. The approaching sound intensifies, hurting those with headphones. The unknown entity moves past them, and the crew breathes a sigh of relief. As they check for damage, Olshansky criticizes Victor for taking risks. They are forced to surface for repairs. On land, Julia and Oscar huddle together for warmth. The ice cracks as the sub emerges nearby. The crew finds the survivors and approaches. After confirming they're not a threat, they hear their story. Victor inspects the buoy before Olshansky tells him to give the pair some food and leave them behind, suspecting they might be spies. Victor, moved by their situation, decides to let them stay. The sub dives again to resume the search near the buoy. After a checkup, Julia and Oscar are given food. Victor joins them, shows them a map, and asks about their camp. When Julia mentions the explosives, Victor believes this triggered the incident with his brother's vessel. The crew debates their next move. Olshansky suggests they retreat due to the unknown threat and the risk of being cut off from communication. But Victor insists on continuing, hoping his brother might still be alive. Olshansky warns him that this is his second serious error and that a third would end his command. Victor tells his first mate they must hurry. Time is running out if there are any survivors. Julia hears a strange noise, and Oscar notes it's the sonar scanning for the other sub. The search continues until the radar once again picks up the threat. Victor wants to hide again, but there's no cover in the open area. They send an emergency signal to the oil platform and are granted permission to shelter there. As the sub prepares to surface, the workers on the rig spot giant tentacles rising from the sea and sound the alarm. Chaos erupts as the tentacles attack the platform, bringing down towers and causing widespread destruction. The workers scramble, but there's nowhere safe. The sub loses contact with the platform. Victor uses the periscope and is horrified to see the destruction. He shares the live feed with the crew. After the rig is demolished, the monster heads toward the sub. Victor orders evasive action, but Olshinsky sees this as Victor's final mistake and declares he's taking over. 2 torpedoes are launched and appear to land successfully. Olshinsky is confident until it's reported the target is still moving. More weapons are fired and hit again, but the threat remains. The sub is struck once more, and Olshinsky freezes. Victor takes command again and orders full speed to escape. The sub dodges most of the assault, but a tentacle glances off the hull, causing internal damage. Victor hits his head and becomes disoriented. Electrical equipment shorts out, and one machine falls on a crew member. The sub sinks further, giving the beast another chance to strike. A blast goes off in the torpedo section, starting a fire. The crew seals the area and shuts off ventilation, trapping 7 workers who fight the flames. Another strike causes the sub to descend faster. The radar now shows the creature surrounding them. At last, they confirm it's a Kraken. Low on options, and with their last torpedoes unavailable, Victor orders silent mode, hoping to avoid further detection. The team battling the fire is forced to stop, allowing dangerous gases to build. The sonar noise worsens, hurting the crew's ears. Those trapped in the torpedo room begin to wonder if this is where it ends for them. Fortunately, Victor's plan works, and the sea creature swims away. Now the crew can move again, but the fire has spread too much to be handled by a few extinguishers. As some of the crew are hurt by the flames, Victor tells the group to leave the compartment and let the equipment burn. More officers are injured on their way out, but the rest of the crew helps them cross the doorway, sealing it just in time to contain the fire. By adjusting the pressure in the torpedo compartment, they finally stop the fire. Afterwards, the healthy members are sent to handle repairs, while the injured are taken to the infirmary or their rooms. Oscar and Julia help treat the wounded, earning the crew's trust. Julia also tends to Victor's head injury, and an officer teases her about possibly liking him. When Julia denies it, the officer tells her that Victor broke the rules to protect her. Later, Victor asks the crew what they think of the situation, and they all agree they should return because they have no idea where the other submarine is and no way to defend themselves. Olshinsky reminds Victor that his father became a legend by saving lives during a past incident, though he didn't survive. After much thought, Victor agrees. As the submarine begins heading back, he reads the last letter from his father. Julia walks in and notices birds in the room. Victor explains they're used to monitor oxygen levels. Julia then asks for a map and points to places where the creature had been spotted, including her former camp. Stories say that this creature attacked many ships in the past before vanishing, leading some to believe it went into deep rest. She concludes that her explosives must have disturbed its hiding place. If they want to survive, they must turn off the sonar, otherwise, it'll draw the creature again. Since Julia seems knowledgeable, Victor asks if she knows where his brother's submarine might be. She explains that such creatures usually take their prey to a hiding place, likely near where her camp used to be. Their conversation is cut short by an officer who plays a sound recording captured while they were in silent mode. They all hear something tapping on metal. They trace the sound to Julia's former camp, suggesting that survivors may still be there. Victor gives a speech about the importance of saving lives and orders the crew to head toward the signal. During the trip, he reflects on his childhood and a time he got lost in the mountains. He's brought back to reality when they reach the search area. Suddenly, bolts begin flying off the walls, shattering glass and lights. This means they're too deep, so they guide the submarine to a safer depth. An officer then spots a massive abyss, and Victor wants to send a small vessel to explore it. Since one pilot is injured, Victor decides to go himself and leaves Olshinsky in command. He boards the mini-submarine with 2 officers. As they descend into uncharted depths, the pressure becomes overwhelming. Time is limited. They eventually hear an echo and follow it, discovering a graveyard of sunken ships, confirming Julia's theory. Finally, they find the missing submarine. Although damaged, the front section appears intact, possibly housing survivors. They try to connect the mini-submarine to the wreck, but the strong currents make it difficult. After a struggle, they succeed. Victor suits up and crosses over. He knocks before opening the hatch and is relieved to find survivors, including his brother, Alexander. They inform the main vessel, and the crew celebrates. Alexander explains that they've been staying silent to avoid the creature, sending signals only occasionally. Victor sends as many people as possible back in the mini-submarine, planning a second trip. He chooses to stay with his brother, and a mechanic steps in as the replacement pilot. A tracking device is installed to mark the location, but it must be turned off to avoid detection. As the mini-vessel leaves, the wreck shakes but stays in place. Back at the main submarine, the crew begins treating the survivors. The replacement pilot is unwell, so Julia asks Oscar to go. He agrees. As the mini-vessel departs again, Olshinsky notices the creature is moving. Meanwhile, Victor and Alexander retrieve the codes their superiors had requested. They access the secure area and try to use the computer, but it's unresponsive. Victor keeps trying and finally gets it working. The weapons are still active. The resulting energy pulse is detected by the mini-submarine, which starts heading toward it. Back at the main vessel, the crew panics as the creature approaches. They land on the seabed and activate silent mode. The creature slams a rock into the submarine, shaking everything. Water begins seeping in through damaged sections. At the same time, the mini-submarine docks again, but they accidentally reactivate the tracker. The creature, ready to strike the main sub, senses the tracker and redirects toward its lair. Olshinsky seizes this chance to return to the surface. Victor crawls through a pipe to reach the torpedo room, which is blocked by debris. Alexander hears the mini-sub arrive and tells the others to board while he waits for Victor. Eventually, Victor reaches the room and starts entering the codes, while Alexander works the computer. The weapons take time to arm, and the creature arrives. Tentacles wrap around the sub. The brothers speak over the radio and make peace. The creature rips off a section of the vessel, but luckily it's empty. When it goes in for another strike, the brothers synchronize and activate the weapons. A massive blast destroys the creature, sending light shooting through the sea and up through the Arctic ice. With water flooding the submarine, Victor hurries back to Alexander. The system will soon self-destruct, so they need to move fast. As the vessel sinks, waves crash through, separating them. Victor spots Alexander's hand in the water, grabs it, and pulls him to safety. They rush to the mini-submarine, close the door, but it won't detach. As debris starts falling into the abyss, Victor pulls the emergency lever just in time. The vessel detaches and escapes right before the explosion. On the surface, the crew is losing hope until bubbles appear. The mini-submarine returns. Everyone celebrates. Victor tries to give Alexander their father's watch, but Alexander tells him to keep it. He's earned it.